Good morning, everybody. I'm Adam Weinberg, Alice Pratt Brown Director. Welcome to the Whitney Museum. Welcome to springtime, and welcome to two extraordinary shows that are opening today. Jaune Smith and Josh Kline. I have to say, walking into the galleries this morning and see these two shows that represent two artists of radically different upbringings, generations, geographies, histories, and yet there are these incredible coherences in these shows in a way. And having spoken to both Jaune and having spoken to Josh, they're both great admirers of each other across time and space, and it's a wonderful thing. So I'm so happy to be here this morning, and you'll bear with me this morning because we have two very important shows, and as usual, I have lots to say, but hopefully they have some good pictures to show with me. For more than 90 years, the Whitney has been dedicated to the work of living artists, as you all know, and championing them at all stages of their career. Recognizing Jaune and Josh today is core to our DNA and continues our rich legacy of sharing the work of groundbreaking American artists and with new audiences. For 50 years, Jaune Smith, a citizen of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Nation, has charted an exceptional, unorthodox career as an artist, a curator, an educator, and an advocate. Her work flips commonly held historical narratives, illuminates absurdities in dominant culture. The Whitney is honored to collaborate with Jaune Smith, and we're grateful to her for trusting us to organize this exhibition. As the first retrospective, shockingly, of an Indigenous artist organized by the Whitney, we presented other shows like Jimmy Durham, but was not organized by Whitney. This exhibition is truly long overdue. Jaune Smith, Memory Map, great title, is the largest and most comprehensive presentation of Jaune's career and offers a new framework, especially for the Whitney, to consider Native American art. The exhibition addresses how Smith has led some of the most pressing dialogues around racism, land, and cultural preservation, and has also developed a colorful visual language that is both solemn and approachable. It celebrates the artist's dedication to creativity and community. It emphasizes their deep political commitments, were urgent and potent reminders of our responsibilities to the earth and each other. And I would say in particular, in the art world, we must remain watchful and skeptical. Art history and modernity are anything but linear. There are 574 federally recognized Indigenous nations in the United States, each with its own attendant culture and history, actually something that Jaune and I were talking about, that some of the communities could be just miles apart and have totally different traditions and totally different languages. And art in America should reflect and be celebrated for multiplicity and complexity. But for decades, we know that this has not always been the case. Multivalent, diverse, and contradictory characteristics of art have been historically diminished and disregarded. Artists such as Jaune, whose references, practices, and interests go far broader than what was traditionally considered American, were casualties of the exclusionary, formalist approaches of so many institutions. The Whitney, which sits precisely on the land of Lenapehoking Trading Post, literally right in this exact location, was not immune from those prejudices. In our land acknowledgement, we recognize the historical exclusion of Indigenous artists from our collection and from our program, and we are absolutely committed to the idea of addressing these erasures. And this is our first step in doing so. And honoring the work of prospective Indigenous artists in the communities we work with for a more equitable future are crucial. And we have work to do, but today I think you'll all agree as you walk through the galleries and hopefully feel both uplifted and at the same time very reflective is a really positive step. This exhibition is an opportunity to highlight Smith's powerful, nationally recognized work and career, but also to honor her as a mentor, exemplar, and a powerful influence to a lot of younger generation Native American artists. Smith has provided exposure and encouragement to hundreds of Indigenous artists over her career, and it's important that we view Smith and her peers and be vigilant and self-critical moving forward. And I think it has been imperative of the Whitney Museum to not just be looking out in the world, but looking at ourselves to understand what we're doing and what we can do better. I would like to thank Laura Phipps, assistant curator at the Whitney Museum, for skillfully organizing this historical retrospective. Laura's focused, insightful persistence has been ever so fruitful for Jaune, for the Whitney, and above all for the public. Since the exhibition's inception in 2019, she's overcome numerous pandemic-related travel restrictions. Imagine trying to do a show across the country and trying to get all the works for it, the delays, and all of the challenges that happened during this period. She has been an incredible advocate for the artist, both internally and out in the world at large. And I just want to say thank you. I know this has been a labor of love for you, and this is going to be a show you will never forget. It'll always be core to who you are as a curator and as a person. I would also like to acknowledge Caitlin Chasen for serving as curatorial project assistant on the exhibition, and the entire Whitney staff who give their all to each and every exhibition, knowing that each exhibition is not just an exhibition, but it is the exhibition for that artist very often. This may be their one shot, or maybe just a few shots in their life to do something like this. And I'm looking at the staff all ringing around the room and in the back row. Every single person who works in this institution is here for artists. That is their work, and they know it, and we know it, and that's what matters about the Whitney Museum to all of us. This presentation is Smith's work, and I'm going to thank our many funders who came to the fore quickly and understood the historic nature of this exhibition. Judy Hart Angelo, our wonderful trustee, Carl and Marilyn Thoma Foundation, Lisa and Michael Evans. I feel like those people who read all the car ads really, really quickly, but each one matters even if I go quickly. The Henry Luce Foundation, the Horace W. Goldsmith Foundation, Kevin and Rosemary McNeely, and the Manitou Fund, the Terra Foundation for American Art, and the Whitney's National Committee. I'd like to thank the Forge Project, Garth Grennan Gallery, who has been fantastic, Susan and Larry Marks for their support. And I'm really proud to say that the Jaune Quick to See Smith exhibition will travel beyond New York. It will open in both Fort Worth and in Seattle in the coming months. So we're so pleased. Most importantly, and I don't know if Jaune is here yet, she was in the galleries, but she's standing sort of in the corners, but I just want to say, if you can hear my voice, Jaune, it's not the voice of God, just the director, but I'd like to say, Jaune, without you, clearly, there would be no exhibition. Artists are the prime movers in all we do at the Whitney Museum. I want to thank you wholeheartedly for granting the Whitney the privilege of presenting a retrospective and showing us new ways to see America and American art. And as you have expressed in myriad ways, Native Americans have always been here and will always be here and will always shape American culture. And in these difficult times, we have much we can learn learn from your art, Jaune. We can learn about respect, respecting individuals, respecting cultures, and respecting the earth that sustains us. So Jaune, thank you for trusting us to do this exhibition. And I think you're out there someplace in the place. Let's go there. Chapter 2, Josh Kline. Josh Kline, Project for a New American Century, is the first mid-career survey of Josh's work by an American museum. The exhibition offers an examination of over 15 years of work, and that's a pretty short period of time when you consider it's a mid-career retrospective. This exhibition includes a major new installation. For those of you who've been up on the 8th floor, it's the kind of that daunting reddish-orange gallery that when you go into just kind of sends electricity through your body. It's called Personal Responsibility, and I think is very much a call to arms for each of us to deal with the present, much the way Jaune's work is. And that new installation on the 8th floor is a totally brand new project and a truly rich and complex one. And Josh's immersive installations question how emergent technologies have changed and indeed are challenging human survival in the 21st century. As one of the leading artists of his generation, and probably the youngest to ever have a mid-career survey at the Whitney, Josh is among the most outspoken of his peers in directly confronting questions of class, labor, inequity in the U.S. today. And by addressing a wide range of societal concerns, such as the dehumanizing nature of work, the effects of automation on the entire labor force, and the precarious nature of individual health in the U.S., not to mention just a few things. I mean, this is like reading the plagues at Passover time. The weakening of democracy and an extreme income inequality, which is affecting the entire global situation. And Josh's work is both visceral, but it is also a political call. Josh has this uncanny ability to hone in on the most important issues of the day. And I always feel that he is a little bit like a seer, because so much of this work was pre-pandemic, but yet it feels like it was made from the depths of the pandemic. Its work, it is deeply embedded in its form and its subject to contemporary technologies, and it is seductive, it's engaging, even shocking in appearance, and his installations are often evoke a combination of rapture, bewilderment, and even repulsiveness sometimes. And my deepest congratulations go to Chris Liu. Welcome back to the Whitney. We're so happy to have you. We feel like you've never left, and I think you'll always be here too. Chris has made this a kind of project for a decade. It came about many years ago when he was at PS1, and he first included Josh in a group exhibition there. And Chris has been championing his work ever since then. This is a project that began 6 years ago, also went through a lot of ups and downs in the pandemics. And you know, for an artist who is watching that clock ticking, this can be a kind of painful experience, but in the end, I think it has really paid off big time. And I just want to say that the way you have addressed this, Chris, with incredible gravity and the serious nature of what it is and the importance that it has for our day, but also this incredible self-assurance on your part as a curator. It's like the curator who has perfect pitch. It's really beautiful. Thank you also to McLean Groff, who was the curatorial assistant on the project. I think you're hiding here someplace, McLean, but congratulations. Oh, there, she's hiding in the corner, evidently. Thank you, really. I watched you up in the galleries all times of day or night. And I just want to end by saying Josh is truly one of the most unyielding voices of his generation. It's hard to believe that this extraordinary, and I mean that in all senses of the word, exhibition marks so many firsts in what we believe will be a long and brilliant career. Josh is not here with us today, but I know he must be probably eavesdropping on us technologically. Thank you, Josh, for trusting us. I also want to do the thank yous for the funders, Judy Hart-Angelo, again, the Whitney's National Committee, Candy and Michael Barish. A lot of these people are people who have supported him from his earliest shows at 47 Canal. The Hartman and Mackey Foundation, Mi Young Lee and Neil Simpkins, Jackson Tang. I also want to end by expressing a great thanks and congratulations to our Senior Deputy Director, the man with the world's longest title, and the Nancy and Steve Crown Family Chief Curator, Scott Rothkopf. And I want you to know the best thing is that when he becomes the director, he has a title that he could say in actually one breath and not three. So that's really great news. But Scott, you've been an unbelievable leader for the curatorial community here and in the museum. And Scott's ongoing dedication to our mission, to celebrating art and artists at all stages of their career, and to constantly holding ourselves up to a mirror of what our best selves might be and knowing that we can always do better. And I think if you all have been, and I know many of you have been watching our program in detail for the last 8 years since we came in this building, that is so much a reflection of his architecture, of how the Whitney Museum is, the inner architecture of what it is. And I just want to congratulate him because he will be taking the post of Alice Pratt Brown, see how quick and easy that is to say, in November. And thank you, Scott, for all you do, and what an honor it's been to work with you. And without further ado, I will introduce Laura Phipps. Thank you all.
Okay, lower this a little. It's my first time presenting in front of Jaune, so it's extra nerve-wracking. But I'm so thrilled to finally be here presenting and sharing Jaune Quick to See Smith memory map with all of you. As Adam said, I'm Laura Phipps, assistant curator at the Whitney, a settler and a guest on Lenape-Hoking, the homeland of the Lenape, who were forcibly removed from this land, but who are also still here, many based in what is now called New Jersey, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, and Canada. And this Lenape diaspora, as well as the displacement of many indigenous nations, is the direct result of settler colonialism, a process that's effects are ongoing, which makes it all the more important for me to recognize for myself, and also as a representative of a Museum of American Art, our responsibility to Indigenous art and artists and to centering Indigenous perspectives. And I'm very grateful to have been in and continue to be in dialogue with my colleagues here at the museum and outside the museum as we think about not only the Whitney's land acknowledgement, which Adam mentioned, and our future actions, but also the museum's commitment to better engaging and collaborating with Indigenous art and artists. So this work and this thinking has really deeply informed and deeply enriched the experience of working with Jaune Quick to See Smith on this monumental and overdue retrospective. Before I get into any images, as with any exhibition, this has been an incredibly collaborative project. I want to thank Caitlin Chason, the curatorial project assistant, for her really careful eye, her inquisitive mind. We wouldn't be here without Caitlin's incredible work. And just briefly, the amazing team that supported the installation that we've been spending time with the last couple of weeks was expertly led by coordinator Lynn Schatz, by registrar Brenna Cothran, and by lead art handler Caitlin Birmingham, and I'm so grateful for their care. I also want to give a future thanks to all of the security and visitor service and membership staff that have already expressed their excitement for this show, and I know will help our audiences understand and experience it. I really appreciate that. So I also want to share my gratitude to both Adam Weinberg and Scott Rothkopf for their incredible support and encouragement, but also, most of all, their understanding of the importance of Jaune's work and this show. But really, above all, I want to thank Jaune for her partnership and her mentorship, and really for your trust in all of us to present your life's work. It's an honor, and it's one that I don't take lightly, and I don't think anyone else here does. So, oh, that's me. So Jaune Quick to See Smith is an artist, an activist, an educator, and a curator, and all of these things are of equal and incredible importance. She was born in 1940 at St. Ignatius Mission in Montana and grew up between Montana and the Pacific Northwest and has lived in New Mexico since 1976. Smith is a citizen of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Nation. Her retrospective memory map presents nearly 50 years of prints, drawings, paintings, sculpture, and ephemera that really provide a holistic view of Smith's art and the capacious quality of her practice. Smith has said her life's work involves examining contemporary life in America and interpreting it through Native ideology. And this examination and all that it implies and all that it pushes us to question is on full display in the retrospective. So while this was supposed to be shown while I thanked you, Jaune. While not organized according to a strict chronology, the show does begin with Smith's earliest work, many that have been rarely seen since they were made in the mid-70s. And these works really illustrate her absorption of contemporary art practices and art history, but above all emphasize their grounding in her own lived experience and deep relationship to place. Works like Indian Madonna Enthroned, made when Smith was living in Framingham, Massachusetts, and Ronin Robe II, one of a number of similar works made when Smith was in graduate school at the University of New Mexico, are really great examples of the way that Smith imbues her work with her own worldview, her memories of home and of land, while embracing new contexts and experimenting with material and form. The exhibition also includes a number of drawings from the late 70s that Smith refers to as inhabited landscapes. Through her play with abstraction and mark making, these drawings, which are named after places of significance, get at the heart of Smith's project. to complicate and to flip around these common misconceptions of the land and nature as empty or unoccupied. These works can also be described as maps, not geographic or colonialist markers of borders, but memory maps that capture the essence of place. Also presented in early galleries are paintings from the mid to late 80s that address specific environmental concerns encountered by Smith, from the efforts to protect petroglyphs outside her adopted home of Albuquerque to those that illustrate the effects of mineral extraction. And here we'll also see direct connection between Smith's art practice and her activism. And though it's obvious that Smith's politics were imbued in her work from the earliest moment, the early 90s and 1992 in particular saw a shift in the way that she forefronted Native American issues in her work. This shift in large part precipitated from the quincentennial of Christopher Columbus's landing in the Americas and the United States sort of state-sanctioned planning of celebrations really proved to be a catalyst for many artists and activists who hoped to redirect this historical narrative, and Smith was intimately involved in many of these efforts, both creating art in response to the atrocities unleashed by Columbus and also in organizing exhibitions to counter the established stories of European contact. So this trade, Gifts for Trading with White People, is a great example of the way that Smith began incorporating texts from newspapers like the Charcuster News, from the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Nation, to illustrate the many issues that were facing Native peoples in the United States. Her politics and her identity as a Native American artist come through in these texts, as well as in the image choices that she's making, in particular using these large icons like a trade canoe or a bison or a horse as stage settings for paint and collage. And in subsequent galleries, the works exist out of chronology, instead focused on issues of great importance, as well as repeated formal concerns and imagery that Smith identifies and returns to across decades. So themes of these galleries include her confrontation of the history of American imperialism, approaching examples from the 1860s and the early 2000s with clear-eyed specificity and her signature humor, as well as galleries that look at the long reach of capitalism and corporate greed, often appropriating the visual language of pop art and the printed language of advertising, the big, bigger, biggest. There are also galleries that look at Smith's recognition of the essential wisdom of her ancestors and of elders, as well as references to matrilineage and the importance of matriarchal power. Another gallery highlights Smith's concerns over the abuse and mismanagement of the environment by industry and government. And through her activism and her art, Smith continues to attend to environmental changes that she sees, from global concerns to the health of ecosystems near her home and even in her backyard. So I mentioned that Smith uses icons and motifs like trade canoes or bison or the cut-wing dress. One prevailing motif throughout Smith's work is also the use of maps as the basis for compositions in paintings, drawings, and prints. She's used mapping continuously since her earliest drawings, and no matter the form, the message is unequivocally about stolen land and about recovering what has been rendered invisible. So I'm ending here because I can't do justice to the works that are on view in the galleries and want to give you all plenty of time to see them. So you can see them on the 3rd floor, just outside of the space, on the 5th floor, and if you venture further afield in the museum, you might be surprised to encounter Smith's work in other places. Thank you all so much for being here. Enjoy the show, and now I'll welcome my colleague, Chris Liu.
Thanks, Laura. So as Adam mentioned, this is Josh Kline's first mid-career museum solo exhibition in the United States. Josh is born in 1979 in Philadelphia. He's a mixed-race Filipino-American artist based in New York. And as Adam mentioned, this brings together 15 years of his work. We really wanted to foreground him as an installation artist. So really create these, present these immersive environments. So we really did a lot of work bringing together over 100 artworks to really kind of reconstitute and reassemble the installations as they had been originally intended and originally exhibited. As Adam mentioned, he's really looking at recent technologies and how technological innovations impact how we live and work today, really taking on a lot of pressing concerns around automation and AI, the weakening of democracy, climate change, data collection, privacy, the kind of 24/7 gig economy as well. And he does this by working through science fiction. So a lot of what he's addressing are things that are a kind of potential future, but also a lot of issues that are happening right now. And he is quite prescient in terms of feeling things out early, and really using this kind of trope of science fiction as a kind of mirror to the present. So he's not so much looking to accurately depict what the future could be, but to use that to really speak to the here and now, and to really offer, I think, models or ideas of what we could do today and really have agency to determine our collective future. The fifth floor begins with his Civil War installation. This was a body of work that he began when Trump was running for president, and really imagined a future scenario where the United States would really be split by class. This was started in 2016, and it's really hard now to read it. It's kind of amazing to read it through the kind of insurrection of January 6th and so many political events that have happened since. And again, it's a way that he's been able to kind of tease these out in a really early way. That follows with his Contagious Unemployment installation. Again, another work that was shown in 2017. And here you're looking at these giant-sized plastic virus particles. And inside each one is a cardboard box with the kind of desk ephemera of an office worker, as if they've just been laid off or fired, and really just kind of encapsulated in this kind of virus particle. I remember seeing these originally installed at 47 Canal in 2017, and really had questions about what is this relationship between health, disease, and work. And I think now they really need no explanation and really carry a very different kind of resonance that is so close to home for all of us. Related to that is his unemployment installation. Here he's imagining a future scenario where automation and AI will put a lot of white-collar workers out of work. So he actually casted for paralegals, lawyers, administrators that were seeking work at that time, paid them to be 3D scanned, and then 3D printed and CNC routed to have these really intense life-size portraits of these subjects in bags around these shopping carts, also filled with kind of desk ephemera and bottles all made out of silicone and other kind of flesh-like materials. So they really function as portraits of people that are seeking work, and that kind of imagining how technology, things like what we see now as GTP chat and DALL-E, how all these things are going to affect how we work today. Then following that is his video called Universal Early Retirement. And this really becomes a kind of rejoinder response to the previous installation. When he was doing the 3D scans of these subjects, he was asking them if they didn't have to work for a living, what is it that they would want to do? A lot of them spoke about how they would follow their own passions and really do the things that they really wanted to explore creatively or spend time with family. And so he created a 1-minute advertisement for universal basic income. Again, this was way before Andrew Yang's presidential campaign that really brought these kind of discussions to the fore. The fifth floor ends with some of the earliest work that he's made in the early 2000s, and this is his creative labor installation. The entire design of this room is really inspired by early 2000s bank architecture, drugstores like Duane Reade at the time, the linoleum floor that McLean Groff did a lot of research to try to match to the Duane Reade's is there. And so this is all kind of a self-illuminated installation that is really thinking about creative workers. So he's really thinking about his own milieu and the artists and friends that he works alongside, and how they're all grinding 24/7 and really kind of acting as their own personal brand, and how they become almost products and commodities in and of themselves in order to kind of survive or thrive in a place like New York. The 8th floor begins with his Blue Collars works. And these are similarly 3D scans of workers, of FedEx deliverers, hotel cleaners, waitresses, and bartenders. And they volunteered to scan their heads, hands, and feet. And then those are 3D printed and then also kind of combined with the kind of logos and graphic design of their jobs. So again, another sense of kind of how a personal identity is conflated with the companies that they work for, kind of who they're intended to represent above and beyond them as individuals. As Adam mentioned, the exhibition debuts a new body of work, Personal Responsibility. These are these life-size tent installations that are imagining a future climate change crisis and the kind of imagined refugees that will be kind of the victims of all of this change. Within each tent, there's different videos. There's almost 2 hours of content here. And these are actors that are enacting kind of what these future refugees will be and what their lives are like. Josh did a lot of research looking to people that have survived hurricanes like Katrina and Sandy, the wildfires out west, and really using a lot of that experiences to inform the stories that are being told within each tent. And then the 8th floor concludes with a 16 millimeter film adaptation, which is its New York debut here in the exhibition. This imagines a future Manhattan that's been flooded out, and you have kind of emergency workers that are coming out of the water in scuba gear, kind of decontaminating each other, and then having drinks and a kind of after work leisure experience. So for Josh, it was really important to highlight not only workers, but also this idea of leisure within this kind of calamity and to find a certain kind of beauty within that. So as dark and pessimistic as it is, there's a certain ray of light and hope within there. Also, I would just to kind of reiterate what Laura said, this was a deeply complicated exhibition to put together. I just want to thank the whole team at the Whitney to be able to do this. It really took the entire institution to come together to make this happen. And now I'll pass it to Scott Rothkopf.
Hello, everyone. I'll be really, really brief because we've heard a lot this morning and there's so much to look at in the galleries. But I do want to just begin by thanking the artists, Josh, who is not here, and Jaune, who is, and also the curators, Chris and Laura, and also McLean and Caitlin. It's just such a great pleasure and honor to work with such an amazing team of people who constantly teach me things every day. And I want to particularly emphasize that with regard to what Laura said about the Whitney's commitment to Indigenous artists and Indigenous communities. Since we moved downtown, we founded something called the IAWG, which is one of our many acronyms at the Whitney, and it stands for the Indigenous Artists Working Group. And I think now it has a new title, which adds another A in for audiences. I'm looking at Laura, she's nodding, and that's even too hard to say, maybe a third A, I can't remember. But it really was a symbol that the work that we were going to do with Indigenous artists, Indigenous communities, was gonna have to start with a lot of deep thinking and structural work, that this was not going to be achieved by just buying a new painting by many great artists, which we've done, or even starting to exhibit in shows that featured artists like Jaune, like Alan Michelson, like those that we have coming up this summer, including Rose B. Simpson. It was going to take more than that. We had to educate ourselves as an institution about so many different aspects of the many Indigenous cultures that Adam mentioned, the community partners that we needed to forge relationships with, the scholars and the artists who have done such great work, often very in advance of us, and to acknowledge their work was really going to be key to this process. And I want to thank Jaune for agreeing to be, in a way, the first subject of a retrospective of a Native American artist organized by the Whitney. And I hope that we were able to prove our commitment to you and to your community, and that this is something that we will definitely be taking forward, not just this next few months when we have many incredible things lined up to honor Jaune, like our gala, in fact, the Annenberg Lecture with our director, incredible convening that you'll be hearing more about. But this is work that will take years to come. So we are definitely at a high point, but not at a culmination of our thinking about centering, to use Laura's word, the work and the thought of Indigenous artists and communities. With that, I will really quickly mention a few other shows that have either just opened or will soon. This is my chance, as long as you're all captive, to shill for the upcoming program and all the other stories that I hope you'll write and exhibitions I hope you'll feature. One, in fact, which is on view now, and if you haven't seen it, please do. It's in the lobby gallery refigured. It says opening March 3rd. In fact, it opened March 3rd. And this is an incredible, small, but very powerful show featuring recent acquisitions from the Whitney's collection that feature digital artists, one of whom, in fact, also did our Artport commission at this time. And if you don't know what Artport is, check it out on whitney.org. You should. It's an amazing resource going back now decades of artist commissioned digital projects. And this is really a point that I want to emphasize going forward. We're really going to be thinking about different ways to draw attention to the incredible work of digital artists and our curator of digital art, Christian Paul. So check that out. We also have a few shows opening, beginning with Hadi's Billboard, which you see here, a sneak preview of, and that will be coming up in just a few weeks, on view starting April 19th. Imminently continuing our project of semi-annual, not biannual, billboards that we do just across the street on Gansevoort Street. We also have Inheritance opening, which is a major reinstallation of our collection on the 6th floor following No Existe, which will feature works from the 60s to the present, really thinking about legacies of community, family, ecology, many different ideas, place that will be explored through our collection by the curator Rue Hockley. We have also Alana Savdi, and Alana is an artist who I'm sure many of you are aware of, a young painter who's really kind of on the cutting edge of mixing together these anthropomorphic abstractions with really exciting surfaces. That'll be in our lobby gallery. And finally, Trust Me, which will be just outside these doors, another presentation focused from the Whitney's collection, mostly of recent acquisitions of photography, thinking about the relationship of these artists often to their communities, their friends, and even a little bit of a tease there, this trust me. How much do we trust these documents or the people who made them? So with that, I will end this very long but thorough and important presentation. And I will invite you all to come up to the galleries and to continue looking at the incredible shows that we have on view at the Whitney. And I hope you'll come back to see all of these very soon. Thanks so much.